It's Energumen opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2 mile novices. Energumen by
Boylesports has it all. Money-back meetings every day. UK and Irish racing live streaming. Extra places and money-back all losers offers. And a bet 10 get 40 welcome offer. Boylesports, this is betting.
Well, I suspect you all had enough by now of the Enid Blyton you were given for Christmas. You know, the one that says 5 run away together or 5 go wherever. So we thought we'd bring you a different version of that. We'd bring you 5 do the Champ.ie podcast. And welcome to this week's offering, which is counting down to the Cheltenham Festival, which is now, yikes, less than 3 weeks away. And what an all-star cast we've got to go with Barry Doyle. And we start, let me make some introductions. And first, by popular demand, the Irish field's finest, Mr. Ronan Groome, who decided that the less said about today's racing, the better. He'd be very happy to come and talk to us. The fact he's got his car parked is not because he's heading to the ferry on to his summer holiday home, but he's on his way to do his day job. Delighted to welcome back Boylesports Paudie Hassett after his success in all manner of ways in our programme last week. And the man who's got his L plates up, I don't know why, because he's a class act on and off the pitch, is the Racing Post's deputy editor for Ireland, young, talented. They call him Jeno. I just call him a star, David Jennings. And it is Barry Doyle, of course, the founder of Champ.ie. And I think for this start, I probably need my referee's whistle. Well, let me tell you what we're going to do. We're going to talk about the novices, hurdles and fences in the next 20 minutes. Our special guest is Barry Connell, who we will talk to in a little while. Got 2 major players in 2 of the novice hurdles, trying to give himself a first winner as a trainer at the festival. You can get involved with the 5 cast, and there is a special prize, courtesy of Boylesports, of a trip to the Irish Grand National that they sponsor, which is in mid-April. It's on Easter Monday, one of the great occasions in the Irish racing calendar. But time presses, so we need to go straight on and straight in. And that Maror at 1:30 on the Tuesday that echoes all the way around Cheltenham, Gloucester, various other places, is because of the Supreme, which is the opening race of the festival by tradition, a race that last year produced Constitution Hill. I don't know what it'll produce this year. And of course, we're still a little bit away, so we're not quite sure exactly who is going to line up where, because unfortunately, Willie Mullins hasn't signed up to Clairvoyance Monthly, and neither have 1 or 2 others. Jeno, welcome to the programme. Have first innings on this. There is a little bit of what's going to line up where still to sort, isn't there?
There is, yeah. You gave me the tricky one to start with, Mike. Good to be here. Yeah, sure. Look, this is all up in the air at the moment, really, until we know what's going to happen with the Clive Sutton camp. Facile Vega was obviously a very short price before he bombed out at the Dublin Racing Festival. Elete Tom won that race. He's probably a little bit underrated. I think the most likely winner is probably Marine Nationale, for all that he probably has to step up on what he did in the Royal Bond. Travelled beautifully that day. I'm a big fan of Michael O'Sullivan. I know my up in the ante colleague Johnny Deneen still thinks it's a negative, that he hasn't ridden the Cheltenham Festival winner and that he is inexperienced. He certainly wouldn't put me off anyway, Marine Nationale. He travelled beautifully, he jumps well, he likes good ground, he's been kept fresh for the race. There's no juice in the price. You couldn't argue. At the moment, I think he's 7-2 at Boylesports. You couldn't argue that he deserves to be any shorter than that. But I do think he's the most likely winner, because I don't think we fully have got to the bottom of him yet. I don't think we know how good he is. I think he'll travel well off a strong pace. And I find it hard to make head or tail of the race. But if you're forcing me to have a bet, it would be Marine Nationale, for all that it's not really a strong opinion at all, Mike.
Paudie, the market slightly confused because there is still one potential spanner to go in there. If N. Henderson decides that the Brits need to have at least a token challenge and puts
that definitely won't happen.
In there.
You can forget that now. There's more chance of me riding in the Supreme than Lucia running in the Supreme, I think.
Well, you haven't been talking to Nick at the Bonville, but he's very keen with the weight allowance. Paudie, what do you make of it?
I think from a bookmaker's perspective, you'd want to be laying the front end anyway, because they all have negatives about all of them. Obviously, Facile Vega bombed out the last day. You'd be a brave man to face into him after that run. Marine Nationale's form isn't looking so hot now. The Royal Bond form probably looks average enough with Irish Point and Astro Diamond. A few of them just doesn't look hectic form anymore. And it is definitely a negative. Your man Michael O'Sullivan riding it. There's no doubt it's a negative.
Why, Paudie?
Because it's, for starters, he's claiming £5.
Right.
Claiming £5 for a reason, like.
Yeah, but you can't claim a
Can't
£5.
hold that against him. He's young, like he doesn't.
That's it, like you can't claim. So you're £5 worse off before you even start.
But he knows the horse inside out. That's the key. And
That's nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Knowing the horse inside out. Are you telling me you'd rather the young fella riding a horse for you, or leave Ruby Walsh sitting inside in the change room? It's no brainer. It's for me, like if I had a favourite for Cheltenham and I had a choice of a £5 claimer riding my horse, don't get me wrong, I think he's a terrific rider and will be a terrific rider. But if you give me the choice of a £5 claimer or getting one of the top professionals that's been there and done it, it's an absolute no-brainer.
Right, Paudie, I'll ask you a question then, Paudie. Who's a better jockey? Who would you rather have ride Marine Nationale? Michael O'Sullivan or Harry Skelton?
Harry Skelton.
Okay, fair enough.
Ronan,
no-brainer. Absolute no-brainer.
Let me bring Ronan in on this. Lads,
yeah. Look, I tend to agree with Paudie in the logic of what he's saying, but like Michael O'Sullivan has rode 2 Grade 1 winners on him and knows him inside out. Like the upside of getting a more experienced guy, I think, levels out there when you have a guy who's proven in Grade 1s on both him and GoodLand. I guess he's going to have both those rides, so I don't mind that as much in this case. The race, I tend to agree with the lads towards the top end. Like, Facile Vega is kind of revolves around him a bit, but you're not getting enough juice in the price now after that bomb out the last day. Like, there could be something physically wrong with him, and if that's the case, he's 100 to 1 chance that there's something physically wrong with him. Even if the bubble is definitely burst as in fallibility, I guess, with the run. So he deserves to be at least 7 to 2. Like, every horse is a price, but I just don't think 7 to 2 is a good price for him at the moment, with the doubts about it. AntePost, I think DJ mentioned him there, possibly under the rate because of the whole Facile Vega high definition on seating. People tend to underrate those types of horses, like the surprise horses that come through the second strings. He ran a good time there off a really hot pace. Like, by default, he'd be my vote here, but I have stronger opinions on the races we're going to talk about later. So just by default, I'll go with AntePost. And
Barry?
Yeah, it doesn't look vintage, Mike, this Supreme. And I have to agree with Paudie and Mr. Groome there on the front of the market. Marine Nationale form does not look hectic. I think the maiden hurdle, that hasn't exactly worked out well. Irish Point, obviously, was well taken off his feet at Leopardstown over 2 miles. The one, obviously, Timurus, maybe more next year's horse. I quite like him. Look, he's going to... I'd just be a little bit worried he might get outpaced, early on in the contest. There'll probably be 8-9 runners in here. There's lots of pace with the likes of High Definition, Diverge, Facile Vega, Hunter's Yarn, and even potentially, I don't know, will Colonel Harry run, but I think there's plenty of pace. AntePost, I'd love to see him ridden cold here. I think on his first start at Leopardstown, obviously he's a transformed character this season, Mike. He's settling better in his race. The hood seems to, have worked with him. His jumping was the big thing last season. I mean, he absolutely tanked with Danny in the Triumph Hurdle last year on the old course. And for him to finish 5th at Cheltenham was a massive run. He's obviously had 6 runs. I'd love to see him ridden cold. I think he's a lot of talent. And at 9 to 2, he'd be my vote. I'd have stronger fancies like Ronan later on in the races we're going to talk about. But he's a real hurdle. I think this horse has a lot of ability. Coming from off the pace, I think he's a big chance here.
And of course, the one other we need to mention is High Definition, of course. He's came to grief last time. Fascinating that they're persisting with him. Barry's been trying to get hold of Joseph, but he's tied up in a meeting with Kevin Blake. But do I hear that the Master of Ballydor's had something to say about this?
Mike, thanks very much for having us on this morning, Mike. I suppose, you know, unseated at Leopardstown the last time, and Kevin Blake and Joseph are in the room as we speak. And Kevin arrived this morning with 4 projectors, and he's got 5 computers, and they're in the room to make, and they're talking to Derek and John. And as soon as I'm finished here, I'll be back in the room with them, and we're very hopeful. You know, we're very hopeful, Mike. We think the fast ground, and of course he's been by Galileo. Joseph's lads in the yard are very happy. All my lads as well in Ballydoyle, they're equally as happy. So the 2 lots of lads together and all of us, we're very, very happy. And I suppose, you know, David Jennings is always asking the questions to me at the races, and some very difficult questions. And I suppose I was listening to the top of the show as well, Mike. Paudie seems a little bit angry this morning, and hopefully I'd say he'd more than the 2 Weetabix this morning. He said, but hopefully as the show goes on, he'll be okay. But I would like to just ask David there. David, would you think high definition? Would you give us a chance to put across the water to Cheltenham for the stream?
I would, Joseph. Yeah, I think it's worth your while running anyway, Joseph.
This is Aidan now. This is Aidan, not Joseph. Sorry, you're just to be sure there. This is Aidan O'Brien, not Joseph. He's with Kevin in the meet.
I think we better move on before we get into trouble here. So quickly then, lads, everybody, please, your supreme winners. Jeno?
Oh, reluctantly, Marine Nationale.
And Paudie?
I think it's set up for a rag to win it. I'd just be laying all the front end.
Give us a rag. Give us one rag, Paudie. Give us a rag that you give a chance to.
I suppose Divergence and that rag, you know, I don't really like him that much. Maybe that horse, Willie's, that won, that in excess. If he was to rock up at a massive price, I'd give him a life.
Ronan?
Yeah, I'd be trying to find something smarter or wiser, a wise guy type of horse on the day. But for now, I'm just have to go with Il Était Temps.
And Barry?
Il Était Temps, Mike.
Okay, well, we're going to hear from Barry Connell soon. And remember, this is the first leg of your 5 casts. So subscribe to the channel and you write your 5 casts below and you can win that super prize. As we move straight on to day 2's opener at the Ballymore. For those of you, of course, who forget which is which, this is the middle distance one. This is the 2.5 miler. Paudie, you have first innings on this one.
I think it's very hard to get away from the Nichols horse. He's done nothing wrong. He's probably the most solid. His Challow win is really, the form is really working out. I mean, the mare that was second, she's come out and won well since. I think she's rated 135 now. He's rated 150, which is a big rate and a big number for a novice. So I think whatever beats him will win it, I'd say. He looks very solid.
Ronan?
Yeah, geez, I have to disagree with Paudie there. I think this Hermes Allen is one of the lays of the festival. Like, this is a real funny race, I suppose, the Ballymore. It always favours a speed horse. Like, you look at the winners that won it recently, like Envoy Allen, Sam Crow, Sir Gerhard, they all won grade 1s at 2 miles. Often the winner goes back and trip to run well in a champion hurdle. Like, we all know, it's the Brack and Faheen, and even horses that get beaten the Ballymore, like Peddler's Cross, Rock and Ruby, they all, you know, went on to run well in champion hurdles. I think you really need speed here. And this Hermes Allen, I think he's all stamina. Like, he won in a bog down the shallow winners. I don't think there's ever been a shallow winner of a Ballymore. If there hasn't been one for ages, because it's usually run on soft ground, usually is a stayer. Like, I just think he's got outspeeded here. Like, people are going mad about the form in the shallow. Like, You Wear It Well won well the other day, but she looked a real stayer as well. It kind of, like, people saying it's a form boost, but to me, it just showed me how much of a stayers kind of race that was, because a lot of horses pulled up and it was a kind of survival of the fittest down in Newbury. So I think he'll get done for toe here. Hermes Allen, I have to say, I think he's really short. Like, I think Willie is right to win this with one of his 3, Impere Pa, Gaelic Warrior, Champ.ie. They all have really good form at 2 miles. I've gone for Champ.ie early in the year. I did like that Royal Bond form. Maybe it's taken a bit of a knock now, but Astro Diamonds, you know, she's got a good chance in the Mayor's Novice. She's gone on to run to a decent standard. You know, Irish Point was second again, then to him in Nace. So I think he has the pace and the stamina to be a big player here. So I'll go with him.
Of course, I don't need to remind you, Jenna, of course, that Galileo won this race. The other Galileo. That's one of the great quiz catch questions, isn't it? again, what's going to turn up here rather than the Albert Bartlett might be a clue to a few people's thinking as well.
Yeah, I completely, totally and utterly disagree with Ronan and agree with Paudie. We're going down this line of, Challow winners and their record in the Ballymore. This is a different type of horse to Brave Man's Game and Stage Star, and he's a more compact kind of. He's more of a hurdler than certainly Brave Man's Game was. And I know Challow winners have a poor record in the Ballymore, but Denman was second in Nicanor, which the lineman went down and won the Albert Bartlett. Champ was second in the Ballymore. Time Hill was just beaten in the Albert Bartlett. I don't think it's as horrendous a trial for Cheltenham as it's made out to be. Hermes Allen's form is it's there for everybody to see. He's done it. He's won on the old course at Cheltenham. He's won over this course and distance. And I think the day he won at that meeting, he had them all beaten turning in. He doesn't look really, really slow to me. I think he'll have enough pace to cope. The one thing with Hermes Allen, which strikes me, is he seems to have completely taken them by surprise in Ditchy. I was over there last week, and even before he won at Stratford, his work was absolutely terrible, and they were wondering what on earth were they after buying. And I kind of like horses like that. I like horses that don't show you everything initially and just keep on improving. The more they race, the more they work, the more they want it. And it seems to me that this horse has just turned inside out, even since he won the Challow. He absolutely bolted up that day. You can make all the arguments you want for him racing on the best ground, for other horses not running their race on the ground. Paul Nichols was going to take him out of the race because of the ground, because he thought it would be too slow for him. I think he'll be fine. I think this whole Challow record in the Ballymore is going to end here, and I'm with Paudie. I think he's one of the most solid favourites of the week, and he'll be one of my backers of the week.
Have you been spending a lot of time with Paul Nichols recently, DJ? Is that?
I think that could be recency bias.
I actually put up Hermes Allen up in the ante straight after he won the Challow. I think he's just rock solid, and I thought Paudie made a few very valid points.
Barry, your thoughts?
All over GoodLand here. I like this horse a lot. I think mention the pace angle in the Supreme. It's no different in here. I mean, Hermes Allen, he hasn't had a horse to actually come up, look him in the eye and, race upsides him. He's had his own way in front. Vicky Vale, she took him on, I think, down the back at Newbury, but she was about 10 wide at the time. He's not going to have his own way in front. This is probably one of the better races at the start of the week. I'm looking forward to it. I think Imperial Pass, this horse probably is the horse in the race with almost the most potential. Obviously, he's only a 5-year-old. I think he was either a May or a June foal. I think he's maybe more next year's horse. I'm not sure really what he achieved in the Moscow Flyer. I don't think it was a vintage renewal. GoodLand, on the other hand, I just love the way he's progressed, the way he, the way he goes through his race, the way he travels, the way he jumps. The Dublin Racing Festival obviously will stand to him. He's obviously handled, the big crowds, the atmosphere. Barry Connell mentioned when I was speaking to him that he's bomb-proof in terms of his mentality. I think the race will be run to suit him as well. He's proved in behind We've All Been Caught. They went a good licking in Nathaniel Lacey. That's good form. He's a good horse. They went a good pace, and he was able to take a lead. And I think he'll do the same here. Bang there, turning in, and he's proved he stays. Barry Connell thinks he's a Gold Cup horse. I think he's his best chance of the week. That's GoodLand. So I'd be strong on him, Mike, at a price.
Right, so you're going with GoodLand. Just remind us, lads, of where your I was going to say what your shilling is, your euro. So Jenna, you are in with what here?
Hermes Allen, Mike.
Ronan.
Champ.ie.
And Paudie.
Hermes Allen as well.
So there's two Hermes Allens in there. Right, we move on as we must, because time presses, lads. So we need to get everything in to give us time to talk chasers. Let's go to the Albert Bartlett. A race that is often lost in its vicinity because of the fact that it's run on Gold Cup Day and everybody's thinking about what's to come an hour later. Ronan, come in first on this one.
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant race this year, Mike. I think people are saying, it's open, there's no real star in there. I think there could be a couple of stars here. Lots of these horses have ran really good times, like Favre, the Champ.ie, Embassy Gardens. Let's be clear about it. Hidden Valley Lake, it was really good at Cork earlier in the season, then was beaten by a stablemate, Naughty Star. On a line through him, Monty Starr, I think there's one that interested me at a big price, Shambally Kid. He won up at Navan and beat Monty Starr. It looks a real stare. He was the first Jigginstown horse to run again for Willie since the breakup when he ran down in Limerick over Christmas, and he looked like he progressed from that run really well. I think he's 20-1, and just a line through Monty Starr, who people are kind of comparing to Manila Indo, he's still in the Barry Maloney colours. He beat him at Navan, and he looks like he progressed for a step up and trip. It's a really, really good race this year, so I don't have a strong opinion on one of them. I think any one of them at the top of the market are they're all huge players in my book, but at 20-1 I just thought there was a bit of an edge in that price, so I'll go with Shambally Kid
and see whether you went enough to buy the champagne or whether it's back to the antidepressants with a pick like that. Good luck, Barry.
I actually do like Shambally Kid as well, but the one I really like in here is Corbett's Cross. He won off 130, like an absolute good thing for Eugene O'Sullivan, down at, of course, at Fairy House. It was really deep ground. The fifth home actually won yesterday at Rebellious Gale, but he's won in a canter. If it's soft ground on the Friday at Cheltenham on the new course, I give this horse a massive chance. Corbett's Cross, beautiful moving horse, jumps jumps like a pro, and settles, and he has proven stamina. Obviously was 3 miles at Fairy House. Last couple of years, obviously the Monkfish and the Nice Guy, those type of unexposed horses. Shambally Kid is one I think he's the danger. Front of the market, couldn't have Embassy Gardens. It's 11-2 the field. Corbett's Cross for me, Mike.
Paudie, is the market giving us any clues about this race? Because in the past, something's in this sort of a fortnight before, something has been sort of latched onto. Are we getting any clues there at all?
No. I think this is one race of the week where the ground is probably very important. A lot of the horses are kind of ground dependent, and I think if the ground came up very soft, like the lads would say, that would bring Corbett's Cross, and more so, I would say, 3-Car Bragg into the reckoning. 3-Car Bragg, if the ground was soft, very soft, I'd have no doubt he'd go off favourite if the ground got very soft. He looks different class. Shambally Kid, I give him absolutely no chance. I couldn't have him on my mind now.
Why not, Paddy?
The maiden hurl form, like take Monty Starr at maiden hurl, like he's beat nothing. Like Himlock is third. Like sure, Himlock could be lapped in any race in Cheltenham. He can't actually win a race. Monty Starr was having his first run there that day. Like I wouldn't take that form literally. Like he's obviously took a big step forward. Then the next day, Shambally Kid, even the run in Limerick was poor. I just don't think he's much of a horse, to be honest with you. I'd fall down after Jerno if he won. I couldn't have on my mind. 3-Car Bragg, if the ground come up soft, would be a very strong bet.
Okay, let's get the gospel according to St. Geno here.
Yeah, obviously if the ground went soft, 3-Car Bragg is going to be extremely hard to beat here. I've had 2 bets in it. Sander Clegane at 20s. Big fan of this horse. I wouldn't be too dismissive of him since he was beaten by GoodLand at the Dublin Racing Festival. 2 miles 6, decent enough ground at Leopardstown is a completely different kettle of fish to what the Alba Bartlett is going to bring about. I just think he's a good horse. Like he sweated up before that race at Leopardstown. I didn't like the look of him in the parade ring at all. And during the race, I thought he travelled like a nice horse. I thought turning in he was going to give GoodLand his fill of it. And then GoodLand just had too much speed for him. I thought he was very impressive when he won his maiden hurdle at Punchestown. I know the form probably isn't anything to write home about. The man driving Duvan was a beaten favourite and ran poorly. But Sam's Choice was 5th and Green Glory was 6th. I know they were probably, always going to be handicappers, but still, they were beaten a long way by Sanders again. Good bumper for him last year. I think he'll run a big race. I think for me, at the moment, he's the most likely winner. I do think Stay Away Far is too big of a price for Paul Nichols. I'm not saying he's going to win a rating, but he was 25-1 after he got a pretty poor ride from Lorcan Williams in the Grade 2 at Doncaster last time. Was impressed by him at Newbury the time before. I think he'll go off a lot shorter on the day, Stay Away Far. But I'm hoping Sanders again can do the business for Mr. Nolan, Mike.
Okay, well, let's just confirm your tips then for this. Jeno, you're with?
Sanders again.
Barry?
Corbett's Cross.
Ronan?
Shambally Kid.
And Paudie?
3-card brag.
Speaking of 3-card brag, that's normally where you have a phrase attached to it called terms and conditions apply. Because I was quite interested to hear what somebody had to say about this race. Give you a clue, maroon with a white star on the cap. Well, you'd have thought that Michael O'Leary might have been on the gallops, of course, with a horse or two to look forward to at Cheltenham, but where actually is he?
Mike, good morning. I'm actually here at Dublin Airport viewing point, and I'm lying down where the planes land. And I'm not looking or even thinking about Cheltenham this morning. What I'm doing is I'm thinking about drones, because they've cost me, I'm not joking you, hundreds of thousands of euros in the last 48 hours and over the last couple of weeks. Now, I'd love to talk horses and my entries for Cheltenham. I know I've a lot of horses in the Albert Bartlett, and I'm actually thinking here as I lie watching for drones. If this could be divided, I might win 2 divisions of it in the Jigginstown colours. But look, I am looking forward to Cheltenham. I don't know all of my runners that are going there yet, but hopefully I'll have a winner or 2 at the festival, Mike.
Hope also that he's not got too many conflated ideas about how he's going to go through the week.
Boylesports has it all. Money back meetings every day. UK and Irish racing live streaming. Extra places and money back all losers offers. And a bet 10 get 40 welcome offer. Boylesports, this is betting.
Anyway, as I say, before he gets too many conflated ideas about how many winners he's going to have, let's hear from a man who's got 2 major players in 2 of the novice hurdles. Our special guest on this Boylesports Champ.ie Cheltenham preview podcast is Barry Connell. And I don't know what the collective noun is for Barry's, but we've got 2 of them.
So delighted to be joined by Barry Connell on the Champ.ie podcast. Of course, looking ahead now to the Cheltenham Festival. 3 weeks to the day, Barry, and it's getting exciting now. And just looking at the season to date, you've already beaten your season tally from last season. 2 Grade 1s in the bag this season. It's been going great.
Yeah, it's been going great. We've had the licence for about 2.5 years, but the project has been in development for about 5 years. We bought a farm in Nerney in Kildare, about 15 minutes from the Curragh 5 years ago, and it was a greenfield site. We set about putting the facilities in place, putting the staff in place, and so it's kind of been it's been building all the time. And in terms of the horses, we've been kind of sourcing our own horses now that we have the farm and the system and the staff in place, and bringing them on through. And so it's probably the first full season, that everything has been in place. And we've been lucky that a couple of very good Grade 1 horses have found us. Somebody told me once before, you don't find the good horses, they find you. And we've been incredibly lucky to have found 2 exceptional talents in GoodLand and Marine Nationale.
And you really seem to be enjoying this training business.
Well, look, it's very hard not to enjoy it when you're getting the success that we are. I mean, it's phenomenal for a small stable with 25 riding out. We've probably a few more around the system. But we've had 13, 14 winners this year. We've had 2 Grade 1 winners and a Grade 3 winner. Some people never get that in their lifetime. And I've been around racing long enough to know the ups and downs. And these things don't happen by accident. We've put together probably one of the best teams of staff in the country, and we have the best facilities between our own gallops at home and having the Curragh license. And as I say, we've been incredibly lucky to have come across 2 exceptional horses. We've had GoodLand. He's a 7-year-old. We've had him for 4 years. We've had Marine for 3 years. So you know, they've all come through our system. They haven't, you know, we've got both of those from point-to-point trainers during COVID. Marine came from Sam Curling, and GoodLand came from Cormac Doyle, and you know, we're probably a little fortunate that, you know, the point-to-point seasons were curtailed, and we got an opportunity to pick them up before they'd kind of gone through their system properly.
Talk to me about Marine Nationale, unbeaten.
Yeah, unbeaten. I think I said before, I put my head above the parapet about 3 months ago, 4 months ago, after he won his maiden hurl, and said I'd never had a horse like him before. I've had 5 or 6 grade 1 winners before, but they've been mainly stayers. This is the quickest horse I've ever had. Like, he does things so easily. Everything's come so easily to him. You know, prior to the Royal Bond, he'd never been off the bridle in any of his work or in any of his races. He's I suppose he has a flat pedigree. He was by a sire called French Navy, who stood up the road from us in Kildangan. Only stood for a couple of seasons. There's not too many of them on the ground. Noel Meade has a good grade 2 horse called Lafayette. And he has a good German pedigree with a mixture of national hunt, some national hunt horses in there. But he's produced an exceptional horse. We've given him plenty of time. He missed his. He was ready to run. He was ready to run last year and he got a sore wither and missed. He missed the bulk of his winter campaign last year. So we left him off because he got quite sore of it, and he was only really ready to run at the end of last season, beginning of the new season. So we sent him to Punchestown for a bumper in May, and it was a pretty deep bumper. It was more like a good winter bumper than a summer bumper, and we went there expecting a good run. Would have been disappointed if he wasn't in the first 3, but you know, we were kind of blown away by the manner of his victory. He absolutely bolted up, and so we gave him a break, put him away, and then not a huge fan of winners bumpers, but given his speed, we decided we'd take in a winners bumper in August in Killarney, and he won by half the track. I think he won by 20 lengths, 25 lengths from a horse to John Rhines, who come out and won again. So,
very gaffer.
Yeah, we knew he had a fairly exceptional talent. So we went back to Punchestown in September. Won his maiden hurl. Wasn't overly impressive, and just got the job done. And then, you know, was working very well at home, and we decided we'd pitch him into the Royal Bond, and we're very confident going there. And then the rain came, and the ground turned soft, and we know this horse is a really, really good action. Likes top of the ground, and I was uncertain whether he'd cope with those conditions, and everything that could have gone wrong in the race went wrong as well. You know, he got shuffled back. 2 horses in front of him missed a hurl. He got shuffled back to last, but his pace, you know, got him through, and turning it for home, he was in a lovely position. Got in a pocket, got out of the pocket, came down to the last. All he had to do was jump it, and he would have won cosily. First mistake he's ever made. He is a very good jumper. Left his hind end in the last, and as you know, it's a short run to the line in Fairyhouse, and Michael was very cool on him. Didn't panic, picked him up, and just gave him a couple of flicks behind the saddle, and he won cosily for a horse that only won by a head. He won
going into the Royal Bond, Barry. Did you think he was going to win? Did you really think he was going to win on soft ground? Like, was that a concern going in to the Royal Bond?
It was a concern. I was interviewed before the race by Brian Gleeson, and he asked me about it, and I said, look, Brian, I said yesterday I would have been really confident about the horse winning. I think he was favourite the night before, and he drifted out because the rain came. With two runners in the Grade 1, with Dennis Carey in the Drinmore, and I should have taken him out because the ground got bottomless on the chase track. We were the second hurl on the hurl track, and there wasn't too many in the 3-year-old hurl, and the ground wasn't too bad. So we got away with it. The good horses will go on any ground, and that's him. That's just him. Look, he just keeps improving. Yeah. Like, he improves. He's improved from every race, and I've no reason to believe he's not going to improve again. I think we're only scratching the surface with this guy.
And just speaking about Marine Nationale, obviously he's proven himself to go now on the soft ground, good ground. Was it an easy decision? Or what was the thought process behind, I suppose, putting him away now with the view to...
We'd no choice, because basically what happened is we ended up in this situation because we missed... It may have been for luck, because we ended up campaigning him during the summer. We missed his winter season because he got a sore wither, and we couldn't ride him out. Because of that, and he didn't get a normal summer break. What we had to do is give him a series of little mini breaks. So he got a break between his Bumper and Punchestown to Killarney, and then another break, and then we gave him another break for a month after the Royal Bond, just to freshen him up. He's a light framed horse. He doesn't take much getting fit, and he runs well when he's fresh. So, that's been the template every time we've run him, and it's worked. And he's back, and he's come back.
Biggest strengths, Barry? What do you think is his biggest asset?
His speed and his jumping and his temperament. They're the three biggest, and all three of those are what you need for Cheltenham. You need speed, because it's a very tight, undulating track, and you need to be able to hold your position. You need to jump well. You need to be an accurate jumper, and you need temperament. If you don't have a good temperament, you may stay at home, because it's a cauldron over there, and if a horse boils over, his race has gone before before you even canter down to the start. And the fourth thing that he has, which we didn't know, and maybe it was for luck in the Royal Bond, we didn't know what he'd find off the bridle. And when he came off the bridle, he put his head down and he battled, and he wanted to win, and he stayed to the line. So that's they're the four attributes you want for Cheltenham.
Absolutely.
All of those in spades.
So it's all systems go. Supreme Novices Hurdle. The next, obviously, to mention is GoodLand. I mean, he's gone from strength to strength. Really, I suppose you think he's the one to beat in the Ballymore?
Oh no, well, I think Marine Nationale is the one to beat. I think the two of them are going to win. I mean, I've no doubt about that. I think the two of them are the two best horses in the race. They're two Grade 1 winners. The preparation has been very good, and I wouldn't swap them for anything in the race. You go through the Supreme Novice and tell me what's going to beat Marine Nationale.
I need a little bit more time to do that, Barry. I wish you the very best.
Come back to me when you figure it out.
I absolutely love this GoodLand. 7-year-old.
He's a totally different type of horse. He's a 7-year-old now. he had issues there that held him up. And again, maybe it's for luck that he's matured. He's a very big framed, easy moving horse. We sent him to a bumper in Wexford in whenever it was October, and would you believe, I think 4 winners come out of that bumper. Like normally a Wexford bumper wouldn't be much good, but it was heavy ground, bottomless ground, and he dropped in, turned into the straight, and Finney gave him a shake of the reins, and he took off and galloped away through the line. The further he was going, the better he was getting.
You mentioned about, obviously you've mentioned now Marine Nationale as well. Yeah. You said that GoodLand's temperament is bomb proof. Obviously he's been to a big festival.
He's the same way. Now he was a bit hot headed when he was young. Like he difficult to just not a straightforward horse to ride. He wouldn't be a kid's ride. But like as he's matured, like when you take him to the races, we took him to the Dublin Racing Festival. Like there's 18,000 people there. Like he walked around the parade ring like he was at a kids' gymkhana. Not a bother on. And that's a huge asset again. But like what he did at Leopardstown at Christmas, in the maiden to go from his bumper to maiden at Christmas, and the plan wasn't to make the running. He's the type of horse at home. When you jump off, he can just jump forward, and he kind of got the jump on Mikey, and he didn't want to get into an argument with him, so he just let him rock on, and it's very difficult. You rarely see a horse make all in a maiden hurl in Leopardstown, because you've got the kind of punishing uphill finish, and also that the hurl in the straight was out, which makes it even tougher.
How do they compare, Barry? How do these two horses compare mentally, physically, and what they do at home as well?
Totally different. Totally up to chalk and cheese.
Explain that to me.
Well, GoodLand is a typical big national hunt horse. He's got more bone. He's heavier, but he's not over heavy. Marine Nationale is very light framed. He's tall. He's like one of those French AQPS horses. But their similarities are, their talent and their temperament is their similarities, and their jumping ability. Like they're both exceptional jumpers. Like GoodLand never missed a hurl in Leopardstown in his maiden hurl. He never missed a hurl in his grade 1 at Leopardstown. Again, we're only scratching the surface with this guy. I think he's a Gold Cup horse. Like he's 7 now, rising 8, so he'll have 1 season at novice next year, and then he'll be trained for the Gold Cup.
Absolutely. Wow. Okay. Looking, I suppose, Barry, one question I didn't want to ask you is operationally, like for the week. Obviously, this is really exciting, training and owning. How does that work in the same week? I mean, if you get a win on the board early, are we celebrating?
Yeah, but well, look, I mean, we'll be celebrating to a degree, but the following day, the other horse runs in the Ballymore, so I'll be up early, and the horse has to be exercised in the morning. You won't do much on the morning of the race, but the horses will go over probably Friday, and you settle in. They'll go over Friday, settle in Saturday, and we're heading over. I'm heading over myself on Monday, so that'll be the agenda, and we've kind of one last serious piece of work to do, and that's kind of it. But we couldn't be happier where they are at the moment.
Would you be looking at Punchestown entry off the back of?
I definitely wouldn't be looking at entry under any circumstances. I'm not a fan. I ran a good horse there once in a Grade 1, and he finished second. I lost him. He broke down very badly. It's just not for me. I'll go to Cheltenham and I'll come back to Punchestown. But entries, look, if I had a national horse or something like that, that's all well and good. But like for a good Grade 1 horse, the ground's too quick. I mean, you're going to Cheltenham and the ground it'll hopefully be nice. They'll have it with a bit of an ease in the ground starting off the week. But definitely not Aintree. Look, we'll see how the horses come out of Cheltenham, but they'll certainly be getting entries in Punchestown for the Grade 1s.
Super, Barry. This weekend, obviously, a couple of entries on Saturday and on Sunday. Obviously, we've Fairy House and Naas, Leicester, Apples of Brazil, and Tony's Pet.
Yeah,
some nice chances.
I think Leicester's probably the only one that runs on Saturday. The bumper horse, we probably wait another couple of weeks with him. Yeah, Leicester's a chance. I fancied him at Leopardstown, and he just he underperformed. But he has the right profile for that race, and he seems in good form. So look, he's a good each way chance. And the horse on Sunday, he's kind of modest ability. I think he's more kind of handicap material down the line.
Super. Barry, before we let you go, young horse to follow, maybe one that we haven't mentioned, one that's one for later maybe in the season to keep an eye on, dark horse to follow.
Yeah, I'd say Apples of Brazil is probably a nice horse. Like whether he's definitely, I'd say, a graded horse in the making. Whether we run him we probably run him in a bumper before the end of the season. But I'd say we won't do much more with him than that.
Barry, before we wrap up, I'm going to put the gun to your head on this one. Best chance of a winner at the Cheltenham Festival?
I wouldn't split either of them. I think they'll both win. I mean, I've gone through the race up and down, inside out. There isn't much strength and depth in either race, and I think we have the best. I think we have the best form. So I wouldn't split either of them.
Barry, the very best of luck. What a story it'd be, the Suprema Ballymore double. Barry Connell, you deserve it. Best of luck, and thanks a million for chatting to us in the Champ.ie podcast.
Okay, no problem. Thanks, Barry.
Download the Boylesports app and receive generous offers for new and existing customers. Boylesports, this is betting.
Okay, we move on. Thanks to Barry Connell. Good luck to him and good luck to Michael O'Sullivan. It's just great to see he's giving a youngster a chance. If he's giving the youngster a chance too soon, then some of our panelists will be right. If he isn't, they'll be wrong. That's the nature of this game, isn't it? Move on to the chases then. And it is, of course, the start with the Sporting Life Arkle. The first of the three novice chasers. Again, will go up in distance each time. 2 miles. And I think I might have to referee a fight over this after knowing at least what two of you thought of what happened to John Bomb at Warwick. In the words of the old jukebox jury, hit or miss. Barry.
The race is probably going to cut up. Will you have even 8 runners in here? El Fabiolo, massive performance at Leopardstown. I thought Stamina won the day though. 2 mile one, at Leopardstown. Maybe more of a stamina test. Back on the old course, I'm keeping the faith with Dysart Dynamo. I think 9-2. Back him now. There's 3 places now, obviously in the race. When it cuts up, you won't get 3 places. 9-2 each way. Each way bet to nothing, I think. Beautiful jumper. 2 miles as mentioned on the old course. I think it'll suit him. He's handled the undulations before at Punchestown. Obviously was, we don't really know how well he was going last season when he did come down in the Supreme. I thought he was going rightly. might have as well his own way in front here as well. This said Dysart Dynamo, and I wouldn't like to be giving him too much rope in front under Canny Dandy. Dysart Dynamo each way for me, Mike.
John Bon and Jeno, marriage or divorce?
Well, I said all season, like, you have to remember, Paudie will give me the figures here, but like he's been very, very short from very, very early on in the season. And my point was in kind of October, November, December, that how a horse can be, whatever he was, 5-4, 11-8 or something, when Willie Mullins hadn't ran El Fabiolo, Dysart Dynamo, Appreciated, Flame Bearer at the time, and a couple of others. I just thought it was an absolutely ridiculous price. It was nothing really to do with the horse's ability. It was just more the price. And funnily enough, after the Dublin Racing Festival, I gave John Bon more of a chance than I did before him, because I thought Appreciated was going to be the best of the Mullins camp, and they did too. Like everybody I spoke to in the Mullins camp in the lead up to that novice chase at Leopardstown, they could not contemplate defeat for Appreciated. Patrick Mullins, Ruby, David Casey, who rides him out, they were so sweet and Appreciated. So it's all up in the air with regard to me here, Mike. I think it's pretty simple, though. I think if El Fabiolo doesn't make a mistake, he wins. You can't guarantee that he won't make a mistake. And I think if he does make a mistake, I think John Bon will win. Because I think John Bon, I think people were probably a little bit harsh on him from his first performance at Warwick. It was a funny sort of a race. Harry Skelton did a funny sort of a thing midway through the race. And he still won. He still won well enough. I think he's probably the most likely winner, because I do think El Fabiolo will clatter one fence, and it could cost him. I think it was a 2-mile flat race. I think El Fabiolo would definitely win. But
he could clatter a few.
Sorry?
He could clatter a few the way he was been jumping at Leopardstown. He doesn't jump like an Arkle horse, does he?
No, but I think he's got the most ability in the race. So, as I said, I think it's pretty straightforward. I think El Fabiolo jumps cleanly, he wins. If he doesn't, I think John Bon will win. But that's no good to anybody, really, Mike, because we don't know how he's going to jump.
That's what you call an each-way bet. Let's move on to Paudie. Do you think John Bon in any way is where he is simply because of the purchase price, which of course was an ordinary purchase price just with a few noughts on the end?
No, I don't. I think last year you could argue that all right over hurdles, because his form didn't really stack up. But I think the big run from him this year was the Sandown run when he booted Boot Hill. That was second. That's rated 147, and it is a 147 horse, and he absolutely kicked him out of the way that day. I think that's probably the best performance we've seen from a 2-mile novice chaser. El Fabiolo probably looks like a horse that could go up and trip in time. It looks probably more of a stayer, where John Bon looks probably a classier animal. I think just he's probably jumping is just so slick, John Bon. He just floats over fences, especially Warwick is a real track where you test a horse's jumping, because the fences come up so quick down the back there, and he's brilliant. I think the way he jumps, he's going to be very, very hard to beat.
And Ronan?
Yeah, I agree. I think I kind of agree with what everyone said so far. El Fabiolo, to me, did look a bit of a stayer at Leopardstown, and he has that clanger in him, which will come under more pressure at Cheltenham. Dysart Dynamo, I did give a chance to it, but I think the price, the value's been squeezed to life out of that now. I guess everyone with the each way angle coming in, he was 10-1 for a good week after the Dublin Racing Festival. We even talked about it on our show, myself and Barry, saying, geez, that's probably a good price. He's 9-2 best now. I just think the value is squeezed out of that for how far he was beaten at Leopardstown. John Bon, as I said before, I just think people overreacted a bit to the Warwick run, and as Paudie says, that Sandown run was excellent. His late sectionals that day were really, really good. They were faster than Edwardstone on the Tingle Creek. They went slower earlier on, but then John Bon was able to catch up with Edwardstone with how fast his turn of foot late on. That was a really good piece of form. And Boot Hill, as Paudie says, is a good animal. I think he win here, to be honest, John Bon. Whether he's a value price at the moment, but I think he could go off favourite. I'd back El Fabiolo to beat Mighty Potter if he went for the Turners. I think he'll be a 2.5 miler at least. So I think John Bon here for the Arkle is solid enough, I think.
Okay, so John Bon for you. Just remind us, Paudie, where are you here?
Oh, John Bon, absolutely, John Bon.
Jeno?
Probably John Van Mike.
Barry?
Dysart Dynamo.
Oh, there's always one, isn't there? Yeah, well, speaking of which, Nicky Henderson, of course, trains John Bon. And I think it's fair to say if the Brits are going to have any sort of chance of even making a race of the Prestbury Cup, N. Henderson has to have a good first day with Constitution Hill and also with John Bon. And I'm told that Mr. Mullins has been listening to Nicky on his charges. So what do you think?
Well, firstly, Mike, I'm delighted to be on the podcast with you boys. It's wonderful to listen to David Jennings, Paudie Hassett. These guys are so knowledgeable, and it would take Barry Doyle to say John Bon won't win at Cheltenham, which is kind of just madness considering he won that Warwick race. He wasn't overly impressive, but you have to look at the overall picture here. It's Cheltenham. I build them up, and I look at them, and I said to JP and Frank after the race, this horse is going to come on and improve so much. And Constitution, obviously, for the first day, as you've mentioned, is going to be absolutely in prime condition. And we're so looking forward to Shishkin. Last week, the most important thing for me was when I went home, I saw myself smiling on the television that night and that wonderful Cheltenham smile that I gave. And what Shishkin did was just mind-blowing. So, I know what you're saying. If we are to win the Prestbury Cup, a lot of the weight will be on my shoulders, Mike. Yes, for sure.
Oh, well, we wish NJH and WPM and everybody well. It's going to be 4 fantastic days.
I think Willie's there, Mike. Is Willie about?
Hi. Listening to Nicky. Nicky, a few just pointers for you. I suppose the nearest Constitution will get the statement in the champion hurdle is in the pre-parade ring, or when they're on the way to the start. And on the rest of your runners, Nicky, I'd say, keep them all in mind. Just one thing, Nicky, if you ever want to put your stick in a deep gallop, will you call over to Clonsutton? We'd be delighted to bring you down. Anyway, Touraloo, that's Ruby just gone by there on statement. Wow. How's it going, Ruby? Thanks, Mike. Bye.
Busy boys, they all are, aren't they? But they're actually the very best.
Connor Sketches get a run for their money, Mike.
Very best of friends. I thought Willie was, and it's not surprised Willie turned up at the last minute. Let's move on then. We've got 2 more races to look at. You should have 4 legs of your 5 cast done now. The 5th leg is the Turners, which is the intermediate distance novice chase.
Download the Boylesports app and receive generous offers for new and existing customers. Boylesports, this is betting.
We will look at the Brown Advisory as well very briefly because time very much presses on. So let's go to the Turners and let's go to Paudie.
Yeah, very much revolves around the favourite for me anyway. I'm a massive fan. I love the horse. I think he could end up being a Gold Cup horse. I thought he was unbelievable in Leopardstown the last day. I thought it was the most impressive performance over the 2 days. Just the way he jumps is immaculate. So professional. Couldn't fault him. I'd actually be gutted if he got beat because I just really like the horse.
Mr. Jennings?
Yeah, I'm a bit like Paudie. I'd be gutted if he was beaten because it was actually the Drimore Day that impressed me more than Leopardstown. Like he was just so superior to everything in the Drimore. Like he was even jumping fences too well. He was almost nodding on landing. He's just everything you want in a chaser. Like he's beautiful to look at. He travels beautifully through his races and he jumps beautifully. He is just beauty. And I really hope he wins. As regards value in the race, I do think Appreciated, who I mentioned before, I think he'll go off a shorter price than he is at the moment. He's 5-1 at the moment. I think obviously age and everything is against Appreciated. The fact he's been off for such a long time before he ran the champion hurdle last year. But I just wonder, was the race at Leopardstown a bit of a shock to the system? Like, I'm obviously looking for excuses because I've always been a fan of the horse, but he was 1-5 at Punchestown. He was 1-9 when he won at Naas. He just lobbed along, didn't have to do anything. And then all of a sudden he goes to the Grade 1 at Leopardstown and Dysart Dynamo was in the race and it's bang, bang, bang. And it's like, Jesus, what's going on here kind of a thing. He's stepping up and trip for this. He will be in his comfort zone throughout this race. As regards the future, like Mighty Potter's 3 years younger than him. Mighty Potter could definitely win a Gold Cup. Appreciate is never going to win a Gold Cup. But I just wonder, on the day, if Willie gets in Terry Ripe, I think Appreciate is a big player. I think he'll definitely give Mighty Potter most to think about it. I'm keeping the faith, Mike, but like Paudie, I really hope Mighty Potter actually wins the race because I think he could be a star.
Ronan, what do you think here?
Yeah, I want to take on Mighty Potter. I have to say, I do like the horse. He's a beautiful looking horse. But at 11 to 8 or thereabouts, like if the sirens aren't going off after what he did at Cheltenham last year, that's hugely problematic for me. He ran no sort of race.
You can forget that now, Ronan. You can forget that. Like,
I think you need to give a bit
amount of excuses for the race and last year.
Is that your head or your wallet talking?
I sure like to see him before the race, and like he didn't travel over well. He scoped dirty, I think, afterwards. He made a desperate mistake down the back, and he's a different horse now than he was then. I don't think you can hold that against him.
Apart from that, he didn't run too badly then.
I definitely think he can, because he went off 17-2. Like if all that sort of stuff was known before the race, like he would have been a drifter in the market. I think he was actually backed on the day. Like the mistake at the start, people are just pointing to that and going, "Oh yeah, sure, he made a bad mistake at the start." Like that's just selective memory. Like watch the race again. He was still in the race all the way and was just pulled up. It was a terrible run. It was a terrible experience at Cheltenham and the sirens have to be going off if you're thinking of backing him at that sort of price with that sort of run at Cheltenham. Look, and there's good horses inside, as you both mentioned. Banbridge has definitely got a chance. I definitely want to be with the El Fabiola form. The way he finished out there, he's gagging for 2.5 miles. Back on the new course, good ground. He'll definitely get closer than he did in the Drimore. Appreciate it, and I get the same vibes from the Willie Camp that you do, DJ. Like the belief in him seems to be unwavering. Like for them to put him in a champion hurdle first time up must be like serious belief in what he does at home. I know he's a 9-year-old, but like I think he's the player definitely. And I think the two British horses have a chance as well. Balco Coastal and Stage Star. Like Stage Star jumped for fun in a handicap there the last day, won off top weight. The time compared really well with what Il Ridotto did later on in the card to give him a chance at a double figure price. I'd probably go with Banbridge if you're for a selection, but I think Mighty Potter is definitely a lay here at 11 to 8 or thereabouts.
Yeah, nothing finished quicker than Banbridge in any race at the DRF. And Monty Pizzuti was what he was doing, running over 2 miles. Barry?
I don't think they'll see which way he goes, Mighty Potter. And I think he'll get a bigger price on the day, so I wouldn't be backing him now. Gold Cup, yeah, absolutely. I could see that next year. I can't believe how much his jumping has improved since down right. It was a bit of a worry, and I don't know. Speaking to Davy Boland, he loves the horse as well, and he was very babyish. You know, his first couple of runs, even in the Drimore, as David said there, like it was his jump at the second last at Leopardstown was probably the moment of the whole DRF for me. You know, he absolutely winged. It was almost Voucher-esque. The scope he showed at that second last. You're going to see a better horse. I don't buy into that. It doesn't go, you know, the whole Cheltenham track, no course form thing, because he's handled undulations very well at Punchestown. He's obviously proved himself going left-handed. I can't see how Cheltenham is going to be an issue to him. And I think looking at the size of him and, you know, he's an absolute brute. He's going to improve physically for Cheltenham. You could see a career best here from Mighty Potter, and I would make him. He's up there with close to Banker of the Week, and you'll probably get a bigger price on the day.
Right. So let's go down. How many Mighty Potters have we got here? Barry, you're one. Jeno?
I think he's definitely the most likely winner. I think a 5-1 though, Appreciated is a little bit of value.
Ronan?
Yeah, I think Banbridge is a good play here, around 5-1 mark.
And Paudie?
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with the two boys backing the two, but I hope they're backing them each way. Because Mighty Potter will be winning here.
Download the Boylesports app and receive generous offers for new and existing customers. Boylesports, this is betting.
It's the unanimous decision, shock horror. That's your 5 casts done. So we just need to get you to put those 5 selections, subscribe to the channel, and send those selections in. And who knows, you could be going to the Boylesports Irish Grand National into Canty Meath, into Fairyhouse on Easter Monday. Bonus race, a quick chat about the 3 miler, the Brown Advisory. This, of course, has been a race when it was the RSA that used to throw some great horses up that go on to very, very good things. Jono, where's your mind on this one this year?
I'm a Time Hill fan, Mike. Jerry Colomb is obviously the right favourite, and he's the up and coming horse. I think ground is very important to him. I think if it's kind of proper day 2 ground at Cheltenham on the old course, I think he could be a little bit vulnerable. I think Time Hill, obviously he's 9 now, and again age is against him. But like what he did in the Cawdor Star, which shouldn't have really been his bag. I wouldn't have thought, Kempton, 3 miles at Kempton would have been his cup of tea, but he poked your eye out the whole way during the race. He was always the most likely winner. He's had 1 blowout over fences against McFabulous at Newbury in a really slowly run race where he didn't really get into any sort of a rhythm. I thought he jumped brilliantly in the Cawdor Star at Kempton. It all much is going to depend here on what happens with the likes of Sir Gerhard, Gallard, and O'Neill. If Sir Gerhard run, he's an obvious player, but I do think Jerry Colomb is vulnerable on the ground, and I think Time Hill is definitely the most solid option. I think 6-1 is pretty fair about Time Hill.
Yeah, Time Hill better with headgear on, a bit like you and me, Dave. What about you, Barry?
It's not a race that I've a real strong opinion on. I think it's probably, I don't know, it's probably the weakest Brown Advisory that I can remember anywhere, RSA. There's a horse in here that I've always liked, and I know a lot of people will be saying that Jerry Colomb, if it's softer ground, it's going to suit him better. But if it did turn up soft, and it's probably unlikely to do so, the Devil's Coachman has a chance. I give an each way chance to him. I think he's jumping a lot better this season. Obviously won the Boyne Hurdle at Navan last year, handles undulations. Any horse that wins at Navan I'd have huge respect for. It's a race I think could throw up a horse at a bigger price, double figure. Story of the week would probably be if Pat Neville won it with the Real Whacker. He's some jumper now. I just wonder. I had Indigo Breeze on a short list, and I know he wasn't entered for the Kim Muir. He finished probably a length off and wasn't it on his first run of the season.
So you had one on the short list that wasn't even entered.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's an Irish in there somewhere.
Maybe David actually will update us on Indigo Breeze. I know you were talking to Gordon, but like it's
yeah, he wasn't on his list. Is he entered in any race at Cheltenham?
No, that's interesting. Yeah, I just thought he might make the short list for the Kim Muir.
Yeah, I'm actually interested to see what Paudie and Ronan make of the Real Whacker, because I can't have him on my mind. I know Mad Merrigan has ridiculed me for saying that I don't fancy the Real Whacker, but like as prices go, is the Real Whacker not the worst price of the whole Cheltenham Festival? In my mind, he is.
Just say that.
Maybe Paudie is going to come back now and say he's an absolute certainty, and I'm going to be like, okay, I've got this completely wrong. So I don't know. I just think the Real Whacker, given what Monmoral did in the City Isles, I just couldn't have.
All I would say is that people are talking him up because of the fact that he's won over the track. Whether they're right or wrong is not for me to say. I leave that to people that know what they're talking about, like you, Paudie.
I think he's absolutely no chance.
Thank the Lord.
Yeah, yeah. That Indigo Breeze is an absolute barker. Like beating him a half length isn't anywhere near where you'd want to be. That like if the ground comes up soft here, Jerry Colombe would obviously be very strong favourite. But if the ground comes up as it usually does, goodish ground, I'd be inclined to back Sir Gerard at the prices now, because I do think there's a lot of rubbish in this, and I could see it cutting up a fair bit. If you give me a match bet, if they both rocked up, Sir Gerard to finish in front of that thing of Patrick Neville's, jeez, you'd take your hand off, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it says a lot that he's even thinking of going with just one run. It's not a very Willie Mullins thing to do, is it?
It's not, I suppose. I'd say he's probably fragile enough. I'd say, he seems to have plenty of problems, but I mean, if he gets there, he's a hell of a lot of ability. Like he's novice hurdle form, bumper form, all that. Like when you go back through it, like it's top class. Like you'd be inclined to take a chance on him, like at that kind of a price, 5-1. Like, you know, if he had 2 or 3 runs, he certainly wouldn't be 5-1. Put it that way, like.
And we've saved the last word on this to Ronan.
Yeah, like I wouldn't be as negative on the ground with Jerry Colomb as the lads are. Like I did have that kind of thought in my head at the start of the season, but when I was down in Gordon's recently, asked him, like, you know, because he was the one who was banging that drum from the start of the season, Gordon, about the soft ground and being important to him, and he said, yeah, you know, he's probably okay on good to soft, like that's fine for him, you know. And like if you take that into grass, like he's got to be, like, for me, Jerry Colomb, I think he's 5-2 at Boylesports. I think that's a standout on the market. Like that versus Mighty Potter, like this race is absolutely pants. Like the lads are dead right. The real whacker, like for him to be that sort of price beating the likes of Mon Morale, Indigo Breeze, like that is absolute madness. Like, and Time Hill, I couldn't have him in the month of Sundays, I have to say. Like Cotto Star horses in the Brown Advisory have an absolutely shocking record, and that race fell apart. Like the Nichols horse in second, how can I not remember his name now? Doesn't stay at all, and just went out like a light there.
I'll go coastal.
McFabulous, yes, of course.
Sorry. Again, I mean, the Cotto Stars now had all these small fields. It used to be a really competitive race, but it's become tactical rather than a test of jumping, isn't it?
Yeah, and like I think Tom O'Brien got off that day and said the soft ground would help him. So arguably he needs soft ground as much as the favourite. Like, do you know, I just couldn't have him. He's a 9-year-old. You know, he'd spent a couple of seasons staying hurdlers. Sir Gerhard, yeah, of course, like he's definitely got the talent to get involved with one run. Like, what sort of trends has he got to break? Like this Jerry Colomb, he's winning in spite of the distance and the ground in Sandown. So in spite of distance and the ground at Sandown, he's still won. I think like it's got to be long odds on that he's an improver up at 3 miles, and I think the ground will just be okay, it'll be fine for him. Like versus Mighty Potter, which the Turners looks a much better race than this, and you're getting 5-2 Jerry Colomb here. I think that's rock solid to me.
Just on that couple star comment, like obviously with Cheltenham preview nights and Cheltenham previews, you can skew stats to fit your argument no matter what way you want. But like top of the game was the Brown Advisory a couple of years ago. So I know he didn't win the couple star, but he went and won what was a good renewal of the RSA, I think it was at the time, the Brown Advisory. So I don't know if that argument holds much water about Cotto Star winners.
But there is, DJ, there's a lot of logic to it. Like Kempton is 3 miles flat track. Cheltenham's completely different. Like you get the same with, you know, people will be saying the same thing for
you can't say Time Hill doesn't handle the track at Cheltenham, like.
Yeah, you can't. I get that. Yeah, of course I get that. Yeah, but like the race still fell apart in behind them. Like he's nearly a default winner there. Like you can't be saying he was an impressive 15-length winner of the race. Like it was.
I don't mind that if you don't fancy Time Hill, that's fine, and he might win. Like, but I don't think you can hold the Kempton aspect of it against him.
Okay, I take your point.
Okay, folks, we need to tie this up because the director is telling me. Well, I don't know what he's telling me quite. He's got some hair left anyway, still, which is important. But I just want to say first and foremost, huge thank you to David Jennings for the time and effort that he has put into this and in demonstrating his newly acquired swivel chair, which is obviously very much part of the editorial department of the Racing Post. And to Ronan Groome, the police are probably going to do you for loitering with intent. You've been pulled in that lay-by for so long. Hope you enjoyed Thurles. Paudie, as always, a pleasure. And thank you for the time and trouble you've taken to come here armed with statistics. I suppose I've got to thank you, Barry, for what I know not. What we need to remind everybody first and foremost is to get your 5 cars in, and you could be going and probably meet some of these, Barry. I think the plan is we might even meet a few people at the Boylesports Irish Grand National at Fairy House on Easter Monday. You're going to get yourselves a really nice prize, but you've got to get those 5 cars in. Have I forgotten anything?
Accommodation, and £100 or euros betting voucher.
2 tickets.
Yep.
Hotel accommodation and €100 betting voucher. I think we're going to do the same next week. We're going to bracket a few other
handicaps,
together.
Mike. The handicaps next week,
are on Wednesday next week. The weights are being announced, and also hopefully, and maybe able to talk to the clerk of the course next week as well. And that would give us a first insight into what the ground conditions are. I understand that the Water Babies is on standby as the evening entertainment during the course of Cheltenham Festival. But from all of us on the Champ.ie podcast, it says here that I have the honour to present. That's a matter for you guys. Thanks to Paudie, thanks to Ronan, thanks to Jenno, thanks to Barry, without whom none of this would be impossible. Wish you well, and we'll see you next week.
Download the Boylesports app and receive generous offers for new and existing customers. Boylesports, this is betting.
Inside the final 150 yards, this is a special pair, and it's a hands full of grace. And it's Energumen opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2 mile novices. Energumen by